For those of you that are here for the first time, my name is Pastor Steve, and I get the privilege of being one of the pastors here. So we just want to say welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Would everybody join me in welcoming those who are here for the first time and watching online? Yeah, we are just so excited that you're here. And all these tables that you see everywhere, that's not normal. That's for today. Kyle was talking about today being City Group Sunday. And what that basically means is you're going to get a chance later as a part of the service. You're going to get a chance to walk around and talk with our different city group leaders. It's kind of like speed dating for city groups. It's an opportunity for you to just kind of get to know which group might be a fit for you to be a part of. So we'll talk about that a little bit more as we get going here, but let's first talk about why you should even be thinking about getting in a group to begin with. And I want to set that up by telling you a story. Years ago, Amanda and I lived in New Jersey, and I was on staff as the youth pastor at a small Alliance church there. We moved there from Lewisburg, actually, where I was on staff at Lewisburg Alliance Church for a while. And we had some really close friends in Lewisburg, really strong community around us. And moving is hard, right? Like, how many of you have ever had to relocate to a whole new area? It's hard. It's really hard to do. And we moved into this new culture for us. It was a lot more fast-paced. We weren't near any family. We were actually brand new parents, and we were struggling ourselves just to kind of orient in this new season of life, this new just area that we were in, and having a kid, and it just felt like a lot of people around us were in completely different stages of life than we were. And it was just really hard to find connection. We went to church every Sunday, and we were surrounded by people. But we still struggled with feelings of isolation and feeling alone. And I'm sure many of you have experienced that. It was hard to find that connection, that deeper connection that we were needing. Have you ever felt like that? Like alone, even though you're in a crowded room? Now, maybe you've come to church, you heard a good sermon, you worship together, but you leave feeling just as disconnected as when you got there. Maybe you just had some struggles going on and nobody else knew about it. Or you needed some support and no one reached out. Maybe you're finding yourself longing for a deeper connection, but you just don't know where to start. I want to tell you something. God didn't create you to walk alone. Hear that. He did not create you to walk alone. From the very beginning, He designed all of us to be in relationship. Whether that's with Him or with other people, He designed us to be in relationship. You know how Amanda and I found that connection that we were looking for, that we were needing? We got into a small group. In that group, we built relationships with people who were willing to do life with us, to be our family when our family was far away. People who we found we could lean on when we needed them, and we could become the people that they could lean on when they needed us. Next week, we're going to be starting a new series. It's a church-wide series where all the messages and our city groups, we're going to be looking at the book called Practicing the Way. And you'll have a chance when we get to the speed dating portion of this morning. There's a table out in the foyer where you can buy one of these books. Just $10. Don't miss this study. I encourage you. Make sure you grab one of these. We're reading this book as a staff. We're watching the videos, and it's generating some really good discussion. Even if you just get in a group for this study, do it. This is a great opportunity to really dive in to what God is doing. I want to tell you a little bit about what this series is going to be, but first let me show you this video.
Who are you following? Everybody is following somebody or something. Put another way, everyone is a disciple. The question is not, are you a disciple? It's who or what are you a disciple of? 2,000 years ago, Jesus invited his first disciples to come and follow me. But what does it mean to follow Jesus today in our busy, digitally distracted, and increasingly secular cities? Over the last 2 millennia, millions of people have said yes to Jesus' invitation. It's changed not only their lives, but the course of human history. And it can do the same for you.
Over the next 5 weeks, we're going to be diving into this together. On Sundays, in our city groups. And it's just such a really good opportunity to dive into this stuff. The first week, next week, we'll kick off the series. Pastor Nathan will talk about what is a disciple. We're going to talk a little bit about that today, but he's going to take us way deeper into that conversation next week. And then we're going to talk about what is spiritual formation, and then family formation, and meeting God in pain and suffering and life together. So that's what we're going to be doing the next 5 weeks. But like the video said, we are constantly being formed by the world around us. But to be transformed by Jesus, that requires that we become more than just Christians who sit in a pew or watch online every week. It means actually becoming a disciple. And to become a disciple, we have to practice the way of Jesus. But that brings up a question. What even is a disciple? We use that word a lot, right? But what is it? A disciple is essentially an apprentice. Can you say apprentice? All right. That's someone who follows, learns from, and imitates a master. It's usually referred to in like a trade. So if you want to be an electrician, you follow, you learn from, and you imitate an electrician. If you want to become a mechanic, you follow, you learn from, and you imitate a mechanic. Relatively simple, right? We understand where we're going here. But being an apprentice or disciple of Jesus is more than just believing in him. That is an incredibly important part of this. But it's about actively following him and imitating him, putting his teachings into practice. So let's put this in an easy to remember format. Okay, are you ready? It means this: being with Jesus, becoming like Jesus, and doing what Jesus did. Think we can remember that? All right, just in case, let's say it together. Being with Jesus, becoming like Jesus, and doing what Jesus did. That's a very basic definition of being a disciple of Jesus. Being with him, becoming like him, and doing what he did. See, just like with a trade, if you're an apprentice, you follow closely to that skilled craftsman in order to become like them and learn that trade. We grow in our faith through close contact with Jesus by doing these things. But here's the thing. Here's how it ties into what we're talking about today with groups, okay? Discipleship isn't a journey that you go on alone. You don't do it by yourself. Jesus modeled that by going around in close relationship with his 12 disciples, and he taught them through relationship and through daily experiences. We need to be surrounded by people who are going to sharpen us and support us and strengthen us in our faith. Go ahead and open your Bibles or your Bible app to Ecclesiastes chapter 4. You can also follow along on the screens or look in your sermon notes if you want to do that. Look, life is full of challenges. And when we're in community, we have people who can lift us up, who can support us, who can strengthen us. And as we dive into this text today, we're going to look at 3 ways that we are better together than we are alone. The first way is together we grow. Look what it says in verse 9. 2 are better than 1 because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Look, together we grow. Growth happens in community. When we walk alone, we lack the encouragement and the support needed to push forward in life and in faith. In city groups, we have people who will come beside us, who will lift us up if we stumble, who will remind us of the promises that God has made to us, who can push us to continue to keep growing spiritually. How many hikers or climbers do we have in here? Not many, but more than the first service. Maybe the rest are out hiking or climbing. I don't know. But generally speaking, you don't hike or climb by yourself. You run the risk of doing that alone. If you get hurt and there's no one around to know it, that's a problem. You might run into unexpected weather conditions that you didn't know were coming. You might get tired and not have someone to push you to finish. When you have a companion, they can give you that physical help. They can share supplies with you. They can give you that encouragement to push through until the end of the journey. And like that, just like that, we grow in faith. When others come alongside of us and they're offering encouragement and accountability. In city groups, we have people helping each other, encouraging one another to reach spiritual maturity and to fulfill the purpose that God has for us, pushing forward towards the summit together. Listen, get in a group. Don't run the risk of falling on your own, because then you won't have anybody to pick you back up. Look at what Ecclesiastes says next. Also, if 2 lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? So the second way we're better together is that together we stay warm. What does that even mean? What does stay warm together mean? I promise you it is not what this verse says. We're not going to go all lie down together. That's not what city group's about. All right? But just like fire provides warmth on a cold night, that relationship that can be found in the body of Christ provides emotional and spiritual warmth through life's toughest times. We just turned the clocks ahead, right? How many excited about losing an hour of sleep last night? But here's the who was that? Here's the silver lining, besides for that one person who's excited about losing sleep. Here's a silver lining. It means spring's coming. How many people are excited about spring? Way more people than are hiking and climbing. Maybe when it's spring. But we need warmth. I don't know if maybe you're like me. I'm tired of being cold. I want to be warm again. Life brings seasons of cold. They bring seasons of winter. That's seasons of difficulty, of grief, of hardship, whatever it might be in your life. You need the warm-up that comes from community, that comes from having people that are going to encourage you and comfort you. And you find that warmth in a city group through genuine care, through sharing burdens with each other, through loving each other like Christ would love you. No one should walk through their struggles alone. Find warmth in a group, in community. Look at 1 Samuel 18 and think of King David. If you aren't familiar with the story of King David, I want to encourage you. That's a whole nother message for a whole nother time. But the long story short, look through 1st and 2nd Samuel. You can see his story. And he's, at this point in the story, he knows he's going to become king. But there's all these struggles that he is dealing with. I mean, the king doesn't want him to take over. So he's running from him. He's hiding from him for like 10 years. And you know what got him through? Friendship with the king's son, Jonathan. And we see how Jonathan forms this deep and loyal friendship with David. Their friendship is actually described as covenantal love and mutual support. How many of you have relationships that can be described like that? It's so important. Look at what the verses say. This is 1 Samuel 18:1. After David had finished talking with Saul, Jonathan became one in spirit with David, and he loved him as himself. And then verse 3 says, and Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as himself. This warmth that we're talking about this morning, it comes from relationships like this in our lives. This is so important. And in a world where we feel isolated a lot, city groups serve as the reminder that we aren't in this alone. A kind word or a shared prayer or even just simply being present makes a huge difference when we're facing the trials that come our way. The warmth of community is a reminder that God's love is tangible. We can feel it, we can experience it. And the verse asks the question, how can we keep warm alone? We can't. But together we stay warm. What is the third thing, the third way that Ecclesiastes tells us? Let's look at verse 12. Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. When we stand side by side in faith, we find that together we are stronger. And we can face the battles of life with resilience. This image of a cord of 3 strands illustrates how our strength multiplies when we unite. When we come together, we are stronger than we are by ourselves. City groups provide that reinforcement, ensuring that we are never spiritually vulnerable and we always have others to help lift us and stand with us in the faith. Let me show you what I'm talking about. You see this string? Maybe you can't. It's very thin. If you're watching online, you probably can't see it at all. But this string is you. And this weight down here, this weight, is this the struggles in your life? Whatever those struggles might be. Maybe it's dealing with a kid who's always getting in trouble at school. Or dealing with the heartbreak of a broken relationship. Whether that's dating or struggles in your marriage. It's a bad diagnosis from the doctor. But you go and you try to lift that by yourself. And you snap. You can't lift it by yourself. You absolutely can't lift it by yourself. But then look at this string. This string is a lot thicker, right? It's a lot stronger. It's also wrapped around my finger. Don't do that. It's a lot stronger because it's a group of those exact same strings woven together. And when in a braided rope like that, they're woven together, just like that in our own lives, when we are woven into a group, we are stronger. When we share our victories and our struggles together, we can form a bond that's not so easily broken. A cord of 3 strands makes it possible so that when we lift together. We can lift what we could not lift by ourselves. See how much stronger we are when we're in a group? When we're by ourselves, it just snaps. We can't do it. But when we're together and we have community and we have relationship, when we're growing together and we're lifting one another up, when we're keeping each other warm through encouragement and through accountability, we are strong enough to lift the burdens we couldn't lift by ourselves. We were created to support one another in love and in faith. We are stronger together. And we are not meant to just sit in a row. We are meant to join in, to participate, to belong. And that's why today I really want to challenge you with this truth. You've heard this before. Circles are stronger than rows. Circles are stronger than rows. Don't get me wrong. There is value in the row. There is value in coming here and being a part of the larger body together on a Sunday. But circles are stronger. Don't just come in here and sit in a row. Join a group. Get into a circle. A circle that can help you carry the weight. A circle where you can help others carry their weight. You might hear all this and think, Steve, I can't do all that. I have a hard time letting people in. Or I'm an introvert. People just aren't my thing. I get it. We weren't designed that way. We weren't designed to do it alone. We were designed to be in community. I want to share a story with you about a guy. This is Charlie Dates. He's a pastor in Chicago. And he is going to tell us how getting into this kind of community, into this kind of circle, has made such a huge difference in his apprenticeship, in his discipleship. Listen, he even talks about the value of Jonathan's relationship with David. Check out this video.
I am Dr. Charlie Dates, senior pastor of both the Salem Baptist Church of Chicago and the Progressive Baptist Church. I think in my own life that recognizing the scope and the gravity of God's call on my life happened in the context of that community. Don't get me wrong, I knew that God had called me, but it was the church, the people who we literally did life with, who saw in me what I felt going on in myself. So in a real sense, they helped to interpret what I was trying to read. I think of a few specific relationships too. Maybe the best way to get at it is to say, and I cannot prove this, but I wonder if David and Bathsheba would have never happened had David replaced his relationship with Jonathan. That there was a void there that kind of created a vacuous hole as he ascended. And the longer I live, the more I preach, the greater the grace I feel like that I experience. I'm acutely aware that the same community that helped affirm God's call on my life is the community God assigns to help set the boundaries for my life. Well, without telling you all of my business in front of your cameraman, let's just say that I'm thinking of one in particular. God has used, and I have several, but God has used one relationship to keep me out of a lot of sin. I know that's like something brave to say probably in front of a camera, because these days in cancel culture, you can't be a preacher and somebody finds out you got a sinful thought, it's over. Well, I don't give a care, because the thoughts I have are already shared with people who love me and know me. And so a deep relationship, much like I think David and Jonathan had, is meant to refresh, equip, and protect you very often from yourself. And over time, The beauty of these relationships over time, and this one in particular, is that I've got somebody who knows me deeper, wider, and can almost anticipate my own unique, let's just say, proclivities that might not be as honorable, and can challenge those the moment a conversation comes up. Just this morning, I was confessing my sin to a brother, and I love it. So when you know that's wrong, we're not gonna do that anymore. But I understand how you feel. and there's a sense in which I do not feel as if someone is looking down on me in a condescending way, but someone struggling together with me. And we're kind of going up the upward way together. And I live for it. I love it. Grateful for it.
Well, there is incredible value in the rows. And being here on Sunday morning, circles are stronger. This doesn't mean stop coming on Sunday and just be in a group. Don't hear what I'm not saying. We need both. But maybe you're here today and you've been attending in a row. You've been missing that depth of community that can be found in a circle. Maybe you're feeling lonely, struggling in your faith, unsure of where you belong. I encourage you, don't just stay in a row. Join a city group, get into a circle. Be intentional about building real relationships with others in the body of Christ. If you're already in a city group, first of all, good job. You're already doing it. But I want to challenge you to take it even deeper. What would it look like for you to be more honest, more vulnerable, and to look for ways to serve and grow together in that community? I want to invite our city groups coordinator, Nate Woods, to come on up and tell us about that. Yeah, make some noise for Nate.
All right, so good morning. Ooh, I won't preach after that, man. It is so vitally important that we understand that we can't do life by ourselves. And there's such great value to doing life with others. And listen, we have a variety of city groups. We have city groups that have children. All of our groups don't have children because sometimes the conversations are not that children are ready for yet. Does this make sense? We have a city group that's all men. My hope and prayer is that we have a city group that's for women. We have a city group that is forming. It's an older group, but they'll kickstart a little bit later, and it's a group where people come together and they go run together, and then they get in the Word. How amazing is that? So many people do life by themselves because that's easy. It takes intentionality to build a community, because you're going to go in this community and you're going to say something, or someone's going to say something to you, and you may get your feelings hurt. It may upset you. You may feel loved. You may feel valued. Either way, you're going to experience some things. And if you come into a group that you say like, this is not my flavor, try a different group. And then try a different group until you find your community. But this idea of coming to church and I'm just going to come sit down in a pew and they're going to serve me, and then they better sing good too. Nathan and Steve better preach well, and then I'm going to leave. That's not the way God intended it to be. Intended us to come here, be fed, then go back to our groups and let's go deeper and build deeper relationships.